Hey YouTube, this is a video I made about making a saw for Dustin. Made a small backsaw for Dustin using old tool parts. It's an old Dustin saw plate, a little rusty in some spots, a little pitted. I'm going to do my best to cut off the worst spots of the pitting. This thing laid out. Just going to use a cut-off wheel. Burn this thing off there. Used to do it with a Dremel. It took forever. But the angle grinder makes short work. Nice and clean. This is a tote design that I came up with. It's based on obviously some kind of traditional Western pistol grip designs. I'm gonna extend the horns a little bit here. This is the second saw that I've made for Dustin through my Etsy page, and I made a smaller 6-inch saw for Dustin, and it had longer horns on it. Showing you the grain there. Got kind of a 45-degree angle on the grain, the cross grain. That's about as far as I'd want to go. Try to get it as straight as I can. There's a piece of the hard back on the saw. And there's the blank. Got a little more cleaning we got to do, but you can see most of the pitting is gone. Lay this thing out a little bit, get an idea what it's going to look like. Down on the handle blank. The tote. Just making sure all these proportions are going to work out right. Let's see what I'm going to get. Done a little email back and forth and talked about whether or not Dustin wanted to have steel or chromed steel saw bolts in the handle there. There's two saw bolts, so whether or not he wanted some historic brass bolts, I pulled off another old Dustin handsaw. Dustin chose the latter. He liked the gold. See the saw marks on the back side of this thing where I've thinned down the stock, the bandsaw. I've got this all laid out here. So I can core out some of the large rounds with drill bits, so I don't have to fool around with them too much. I'm going to clean up the back side here so that I get it nice and square and flat. And then there's the drilling. A variety of hole sizes there, just to make those curves nice and smooth. Save me a lot of rasp work later on in the vise. So here it is after I've taken out the rest of the waste with the bandsaw. It's a tote designed for a kind of a medium-sized hand, which I'd say is about the same size as my hand. I'm going to make sure that I get a tote on there that's going to be comfortable for the user. And again, because I've already made a saw for Dustin, he knows the size of this tote. He was comfortable with it for himself. I believe the first one was a gift. Little fame for Dustin. Some small kind of pilot holes from one side to the other just to make sure that when I countersink for the bolt on either side. The holes line up. I don't get any surprises when I put the saw bolts in. Countersink those with an auger. The brass saw bolts that Dustin chose are a little larger than the half-inch Forstner bit that I have. Here I'm cutting the slot for the plate. Got it clamped down and stacked up with pieces of wood and another piece of saw plate. Makes it nice and smooth. So here's the layout and the start of the cutting the teeth. And here are those cleaned up saw bolts going in. Made myself a little screwdriver, a thin blade. It's nice and wide. You can see that I made it out of an old putty knife that I ground down. And here's the saw all put together. Hand cut teeth for rip, 14 PPI. This piece of original hardback on there from the same saw as the plate. The walnut handle is oiled. Here it is with a little brand on there that I made for Moonlight and Snowfall. I love how those little tools have that patina. That's why I like using old materials to make these saws. A couple of Glam Shots here of the walnut tote. The saw all put together. It's a fun project to do. Anybody's interested, give me a call.